Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking part of your afternoon to join us as we talk about the Catholic Educator Formation and Credential program. This is a program that we love and that we think is deeply transformational, and so we're excited to be able to share it with you. On the call today, I'm pleased to be joined. Well, first of all, my name is Dr. Ryan Messmore. I serve as president of ICLE. And I'm pleased today to be joined by some terrific CEFC cohort directors who you'll be able to hear from later in our webinar. DeAnn Stuart, Alyssan Barnes, and Elizabeth Black are going to help you understand a little bit more about this program, and our program associate Katie Groves will be facilitating the Q&A at the end. So I want to start just by noting something that may be obvious, but it can often be overlooked, and that is, as Catholics, we have something very special in terms of education. We have a deep, rich tradition of transformative education in the West. And in fact, the educational tradition of the West that is so good, that's our tradition as Catholics. We refer to it as the Catholic intellectual tradition. This is a deep resource for thinking about the relationship between faith and reason, for appreciating and studying reality, both physical and metaphysical, and a long history of forming human persons, including persons in need, and figuring out how to lead them to wisdom. We also have this deep sense of education as a calling, as a vocation. In fact, education is we feel, one of the most high and noble callings there is in life. And if you're in education, you've probably been attracted or animated by that sense. And yet, many Catholic schools end up looking a lot like other modern progressive schools. They have a similar curriculum. They can have a similar reliance on standards and assessments, similar hiring requirements, similar burnout among teachers, and similar outcomes for their students. In fact, we all know the example of those students who are taught to master subjects, but they actually don't know how to think for themselves. They're not freed in that way by their education. And in terms of their Catholic identity, we feel it's just simply not enough to add, a theology course to the curriculum and then to call yourself Catholic, or to start a class with a 30-second prayer and then to call yourself Catholic, when everything else you do in the classroom and the rest of the content of the curriculum looks exactly the same. So this approach is what one of our friends at ICLE refers to as faith as frosting that just sits on top of the same educational cake that you would find anywhere else. You just decorate it with some theology or religion courses and some prayer or mass. But we're after something different. We exist to help the church recover and renew her venerable tradition of schooling. In fact, over the last 10 or 15 years, ICLE has been leading this renewal of Catholic education in a number of ways by offering programs for school leaders, headmasters, principals, administrators, to superintendents within Catholic dioceses, for priests who serve as pastors of Catholic schools, and especially for teachers who courageously serve on the front line of this renewal, working with students and their families. So CEFC focuses on caring for and forming teachers. So of those constituents, the Catholic Educator Formation and Credential program really zeroes in on taking the teacher who is in the classroom actively teaching and providing them a deep and rich formation over the course of 18 months. We believe, as you've probably heard many times, that teachers cannot ask of students what they do not have themselves. So we want to form teachers really well so they can turn around and form students really well. And we believe those teachers deserve to be formed in their own heritage, this heritage called the Catholic intellectual tradition. Now, as you know, unfortunately, many dioceses shackle themselves by imposing an unnecessary requirement for their teachers to be licensed by their state. Now, this requirement changes from state to state, so you'll need to look into the requirements of your own state. Um, but many Catholic schools do not have to require a state license, and yet they do so anyway. They kind of shackle themselves. And if you think about it, that really does not make a whole lot of sense. You've got parents who are choosing to forego a free public education and to pay to send their child to a Catholic school only to have that same Catholic school turn around and require all their teachers to be trained by the secular state. So this would be like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse charging $50 for the best cut of steak available, but then requiring their chefs to be vegan certified, right? It just doesn't make sense. And I say this because we believe that the training that teachers receive in secular licensing programs cannot help but be different from what a Catholic school should desire in terms of teacher training. It's not to say that what goes on in those programs are all bad, but it is to say that because they're secular, they cannot help but being incomplete. They leave certain things out. And so we believe that secular state licensure programs either ignore or implicitly deny a number of things. The supernatural, right? The spiritual dimension of students and their parents, of their colleagues, the Catholic intellectual tradition, the compatibility of faith and reason, how they work together, the sacramental imagination, which is so important for education, the unity of knowledge, and thus the integration of subjects across a curriculum. Secular programs deny love as ultimate reality, and also love as a key to knowing that reality, which we take very seriously within the Catholic tradition. And secular programs cannot help but ignore or deny that there is an inherent purpose in all things. And when you add up those things that are missing, that leads to a pretty big difference between the ways that teachers are trained in a secular state licensure program and a program like ours. And that's a pretty big difference whether you're talking about teaching theology or you're talking about teaching science or literature. These secular programs also have simply a different view of what it means to be human. And these programs are often hyper-focused on standards and testing. We've met a number of schools, Catholic schools, who are obsessed with standards and testing, which don't actually measure all forms of knowing and can crush the soul, not only of the students taking those tests, but the teachers who have to grade them, right? So the CEFC program wants to offer Catholic teachers something different, something more in line with what it means to be human, and something anchored more deeply in the freedom that is to be found in Jesus Christ. The church's own time-tested approaches to forming the human person. So this Catholic intellectual tradition is the tradition that contains and developed the 7 original liberal arts. This is the tradition that established the first libraries and kept learning alive in the monasteries. This is the tradition that founded the first academic guilds and universities. This is the tradition that first promoted education to the poor as well as to the rich, to girls as well as to boys, to those who did not speak Latin as well as to those who did. This is the educational tradition of Augustine, Aquinas, Dante, Thomas More, John Henry Newman, and J.R.R. Tolkien. So grounded in this tradition, the CEFC offers an alternative to the secular state teacher license. We offer a credential that is meant to be portable. You're able to take it with you if you move from your school, even if you move into a different state, and be able to take it to a diocese that recognizes it and show them the sort of formation you have and the credential that you possess as a teacher. It is being recognized by more and more dioceses across the country. Uh, this credential is also a very strategic pathway toward a master's degree at any one of the 8 colleges that we partner with, including Belmont Abbey, Franciscan Steubenville, Benedictine, Christendom, the Augustine Institute, and others. So this is a program that is time tested. We've been doing this for several years. We're entering our 13th cohort this year. We've trained almost 350 teachers from almost 70 different dioceses. So what does this program look like? What does it entail on the ground? Well, it is an 18-month journey. So we start in July. We go through the following summer and then another fall semester and end with that second Christmas. And you go through that 18-month journey with a cohort of fellow teachers. We have about 35 teachers in each of 3 cohorts. And those cohorts start out by meeting in person so that we make sure that this is grounded in a very communal and relational starting point. And then throughout the 18 months, there are 3 different 1-week in-person workshops. So it starts out with a week in July, and then another week together in person the following January, and then a 3rd week together in person in June. And then from there until December of that second year, it's online. During the fall and the spring, we hold weekly synchronous Zoom calls, 1 hour each week. And those calls are meant to provide teachers concrete skills that they can implement in their classrooms that very week as they are actively teaching. And they can try them out and they can come back and they can ask questions about how to improve. So they're learning as they go in real time as a cohort. And then a very important piece of the CEFC is that teachers receive highly personalized feedback through in-person or through in-class observations or observations of in-class sessions. A teacher will record themselves in their classroom delivering a lesson, and then a mentor will watch that video and will talk through that session with them, pointing out areas where they had really good strengths and areas of improvement. So we do that twice during the program. We have 3 different cohorts, and depending where you are in the country, that would dictate kind of which one you apply to and which one you end up joining. We have 1 cohort in Portland, Oregon, and that draws from the West Coast. We have another cohort anchored in Oklahoma City, so that draws from Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and the surrounding area. And then we have our national cohort, which draws from all over the country. So the Portland cohort meets in person for their 3 weeks in Portland. Oklahoma City meets in Oklahoma. And the national cohort has their in-person meetings at the headquarters of the Augustine Institute in St. Louis, Missouri. Beautiful place. This is a picture of it. So it's a wonderful opportunity to get away and to grow together as a cohort throughout those 3 weeks. So who is the CEFC program for? Who is it intended for? Well, first of all, active teachers. It's meant for active teachers. It is able to be managed by active teachers, and we're always assessing how we can provide breaks where we need them and understand kind of the rhythms of life for a teacher in a classroom. So we don't assign much, the first 2 weeks, and we know that things are getting exhausting toward Christmas, and so we're scheduling this program for the active teacher, with the active teacher in mind. This is for any teacher from K through 12. And because there's that opportunity to continue, if you want, into a master's degree program, we look for applicants who already have that bachelor's degree so that they can flow right into a master's degree if they so choose. We started out thinking that this would be mainly a program for new teachers. This is a wonderful opportunity for new teachers to learn all sorts of pedagogical aids, classroom management, how to put together lesson plans, things like that. And so we really encourage teachers, maybe who are looking at their first teaching assignment, to really consider this program, especially if they need a credential, if their school is asking for a credential. But along the way, we were surprised to see really how valuable this program has been, even for seasoned teachers who already have a credential, who aren't taking it to get the credential, but perhaps who simply want to learn deeper about their own Catholic intellectual tradition, or to hone their teaching skills and their confidence in the classroom, to really think about how to bring their faith to bear on what they do in the classroom, how to view their teaching as a calling. And so it's proven to be valuable for seasoned teachers as well. So everything we do in putting this program together is intended to be authentic to the teachings of the Catholic Church. And so we ground our lessons in the 5 marks of a Catholic school as they are found in a little book called The Holy See's Teaching on Catholic Schools. There's a picture of it there. It's one of the first things we'll provide you with on day 1 of our in-person program. And this is just a wonderful aid for any Catholic teacher to have at their side. We believe that at the center of education should be the divine Logos. That is, at the center of education should be a person, the person of Jesus Christ, who we believe is the incarnation of the truth itself. And so everything about Catholic education needs to flow from that commitment. And we believe that this continues to be a living tradition that continues to be handed on, and we get to play a part in that wonderful story. We focus on the 7 original liberal arts, which are foundational arts for developing intellectual virtues and enabling the study of all other subjects. So the 7 liberal arts form the ability to go on and study all the other curricular subjects in a school. But these are called liberal arts, not because of a conservative liberal political spectrum, but they're liberal in the sense that they liberate. They liberate students from ignorance, from untrained passions. They liberate students from being slaves to public opinion and propaganda. And these are the skills and the habits and the tools that help free them to become the students that God created them to be. So we're a program that places high value on intellectual virtue and academic rigor. However, we also aim to shape a student's loves and affections so that they come to delight in the right things. We don't think that you can teach meaning or objective moral reality unless you can shape a student's imagination, unless you can shape a student's sensibilities. And so we focus an awful lot within the CEFC program on how to spark wonder in students, how to infuse their learning with joy. And we teach how to place before them regularly truth, goodness, and beauty, how to place before them, how to line our classrooms with beautiful things for them to behold. And we don't just consider our faith to be a frosting which sits on top of the educational cake. Instead, we teach the Catholic faith as a sort of yeast, which works its way into the very nature, every inch of that educational cake. And so rather than just sitting on top as a decoration, the Catholic faith informs and actually changes the nature of education itself. Um, so that's the way that we approach training teachers. That's kind of the structure of the program in which we aim to do that. I think the final thing that I would want to say about the credential program is just how it functions as a community of learning. And this is very intentional. We believe that teaching is a relational activity. Um, and thus, if we are going to train teachers well, then we need to make that experience as relational as we can. So when we gather together for those 3 in-person workshops, we share meals together. We worship together. We have daily mass each day of those in-person workshops. We try to offer confession during those workshops and really function as a worshiping community. We take field trips together. This particular image here is we took a good old-fashioned yellow school bus out to the home farm of Blessed Stanley Rother in Oklahoma, and we did some stargazing while we were out there. We love to discuss texts together in seminar fashion. We do that in person, and then we continue to do that our final semester together. And we share prayer requests, and we pray for each other by name weekly. And even our team, when we get together once a week, we take the intentions of our teachers from each cohort and we pray through them out loud by name. And that's one of the special things about the CEFC is because it's an 18-month journey, it really gives us the chance to get to know the teachers well, for them to get to know each other well, and to share meaningful parts of our life together throughout those 18 months. So it really does function as a deep and transformational community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, DeAnn Stuart, who is the cohort director for the national cohort. And she's going to talk a little bit more about the various courses that make up the CEFC program. Over to you, DeAnn.
Thanks, Ryan. I get the pleasure of talking about what teachers who go through the program will learn. What is it that you might expect from the CEFC program? So, rooted deeply within the Catholic tradition, we have constructed 5 different courses of study. And these are all integrated because what we have found is that teachers need a little bit of each of these things throughout the year. So we try to sequence them based on what teachers need at different times of the school year. So course 1 is the virtuous classroom. We don't think that classroom management is just crowd control. Instead, we think that classroom management is about intentionally nurturing the growth of virtue in our students. And we recognize that teachers throughout the year, they need to seek advice from seasoned veterans about how to handle different situations that they face on a daily basis in their actual classrooms. So we're very intentional about selecting heads of cohort who have that deep experience in the classroom so that we can speak to the experience of our teachers. So all of these things teachers will learn within the virtuous classroom. And it'll be sprinkled throughout the year. Course 2, pedagogy. We believe that these essential questions that our Catholic faith answers for us, questions like who is the human person, how does he learn, and what is he made for? We believe that these are foundational, and they are what determine how we teach. The answers to those questions determine how we teach. So what we try to do in this second course is equip teachers with concrete techniques, with templates that we model through our own instruction so that teachers have all the tools that they need to implement those techniques in their own classrooms. Our goal ultimately is to shift from this mode of teacher telling to showing teachers how they can construct classes that invite students to discover. Instead of us just telling them truths, we want them to discover and love those truths. And so we're very concrete about spelling out the steps for that so that teachers can imitate that in their own classrooms. Course three, the trivium, we introduce the classical trivial arts to teachers. So grammar, learning about the structure of language. We introduce logic, learning the most effective applications of language, rhetoric, learning to speak and write beautifully and persuasively. And this is the end goal is expressive language. And it's amazing to me, having some exposure now to the science of literacy, how these classical arts are mirrored in the science of how we actually acquire language, because the end goal is that beautiful expression in both cases, even when we're looking at science. So, what is it that we include under this course of study? In addition to those classical arts, we also introduce teachers to some of the science of literacy, especially for our lower school teachers. We give them tips for writing instruction. We teach some of our upper school teachers about how to develop close reading skills, note-taking skills in their students, all in an effort to lead them toward that beautiful expression. That's the end goal. Course four, quadrivium. This has to do with the arts of number. So we introduce those classical liberal arts of arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. But we also try to build in teachers' number sense. We try to show them ways to bring wonder back into the math and science classroom in particular. And this course of study, we believe, is not just for math people, not just for math teachers, because if we want to form well-rounded students who are in love with learning, who are in love with creation, the world that God has made for us, then we ourselves need to be formed into those well-rounded individuals. So everyone goes through this course of study, both in language, the arts of language, and in the arts of number. Course five, Faith and Reason, the Foundations of the Catholic Intellectual Tradition. These are sprinkled throughout the program with a special emphasis during that last semester of the program. So what we do under this course is we try to root teachers in Western civilization and history, and we outline components of good history instruction. We discuss together seminal texts on the liberal arts tradition and also Catholic education more broadly. And all of this, as Ryan has said, all this formation occurs within a community of passionate, faithful Catholic educators. Somehow just being together as the body of Christ is empowering and liberating, and it gives us that sense of mission to go out and back into those classrooms to fight another day. So it's very, very life-giving for everyone involved. Some things that our graduates have said. One thing that's really touched me is one teacher said, "I'm growing in love for my students," which I credit to this program. I don't know if I could imagine higher praise. We've heard from veteran teachers that this is the best formation that they've received in over 20 years of teaching, one of them said, but also from new teachers that they didn't know how they would have gotten through their first year without the formation that the CEFC has provided. And another thing that's been very meaningful to me, two other things really, is that the teachers have told us that that the instructors not only tell us what to do, they show us what to do through our own teaching. And that has been a real game changer for a lot of teachers. And the most important feedback I've gotten from them is that they've learned throughout their participation in the program how to integrate their faith into everything that they teach. So that I know we talk about pedagogy, it leads from wonder to wisdom. Yes, and from wisdom to worship. So when we grow in wisdom, we worship the one from who is wisdom, wisdom himself. And so this is the trajectory of our course of study. Ryan, handing it back over to you.
Terrific. All right. Thank you, DeAnn. Well, that's kind of the content that we wanted to provide for you, and would love to hear any thoughts or questions that you have. Um, and so, Katie, what's on the minds of our audience?
Let's see. Well, if any of you guys, as you're developing questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom there. But to start off, we have a question about like who is in the CEFC cohorts generally. We talked about new teachers, experienced teachers are in it. Who is generally signing up for the CEFC?
Allie.
And because I've spoken a lot, I'm going to allow our cohort directors to take the
Yeah,
lead
I'll
on it.
jump in. That's been something fun, just seeing how the different cohorts develop their own kind of ethos. We've had one cohort that was religious heavy. I think a third of the teachers were professed religious, so that was really wonderful. I have a male heavy cohort this year, so that's fun. But I would say, just generally speaking, it tends to be majority brand new teachers, and then we also have peppered in there. So for example, my cohort right now, mostly new teachers, but we have three or four administrators who are going through the program with them, and that's wonderful. They get together and think about it from the administrator's perspective. And then we have some that are seasoned teachers that are brand new to Catholic liberal education and want to bring faith into their classroom in a real way. So it's a mix, probably heaviest on the new teachers.
And by new teachers, I know we often think of new teachers as being those who are in years 1 through 3. So those within those first 3 very formative years of teaching.
There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Questions are really starting to pour in now. We have one person confirming what the requirements are for the CEFC, saying that so we definitely need to have a bachelor's if we're in the CEFC. But could you participate in the CEFC if you're just interested in the process but don't have a teaching background?
Uh, don't let that stop you from reaching out and getting to know us and for us to know your situation. If there was the desire and the plan to move into a master's degree in the future, and to use this program and our partnership as part of that pathway, that's when you would really need the bachelor's degree. But if, we want to be open to the right teacher, and let's talk, and don't let that prevent you from reaching out.
Thank you. Yeah, we also have, we mentioned before, we've got administrators in the program, so we make accommodations for people in different kind of situations. We have another question here asking about in-person versus virtual. Do we have any cohorts that are all in person or all virtual?
Can I answer that again? So they're all hybrid. They're all hybrid. We've had people ask, could I just do the virtual part or just the in-person? But all of our cohorts are hybrid. Yeah, meaning we start with the in-person and then we have the online as well, and generally 3 in-person stints.
And as far as the way that functions, it's really nice being all together in person at first because we're able to forge those relationships and then seeing each other throughout the course of the semester, just 1 hour, 1 day a week. So we just have these little touches to make it manageable when you're in the thick of your school year. It sustains those relationships. So when we regather in January mid-year, there's such great joy that everybody is all together again. And then we have those touches, they're sustained again over the course of the next semester. So I think that the back and forth balance actually works really well.
Yes, I've had teachers say that too, that they thought they would only enjoy the in-person, but the online Zoom sessions, because you have the relationships established, are very helpful throughout the year. And I tend to think of it as kind of a drip irrigation system where every week you get one little new thing to take back to your classroom, and the next week a new little idea or pedagogical tip.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to address a couple comments I saw pop up in the chat. This is currently being recorded and we can send it out after. So I'll just answer that one. And then how should people apply to the program if they're interested in applying?
Yeah, if you just Google ICLE CEFC, that'll take you to the CEFC webpage of our ICLE website. And right at the top of the page, you'll see an announcement that the application portal is now open. And you'll see a button there. And if you click on that button, you'll be able to apply straight away to the program. So again, just go to ICLE's website and find the CEFC page, and it's very easy from there.
Yep. I just dropped part of that URL in the chat there if anyone wants to copy it and go apply right now. Back to the Q&As. We have someone here who's actually we didn't talk about this, from Columbia. What courses are going to be going over in Columbia?
Yes, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hola. We didn't mention our fourth cohort, which we're really excited about, which will be launching in the summer of 2026, which is in Colombia, South America. It'll have the same sort of structure. We'll start out in person. We'll have synchronous Zoom calls in the fall and the spring semester. And so if anybody else happens to be on the call from South America, know that there's a cohort near you.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. So yeah, thank you for asking that question. Anyone else, feel free to say hi in that chat if you're from this new area. Next, we have a question. How much does the CEFC cost?
I can take that. So the tuition is, it'll be easier if we start with one overall sum, about $8,000 all told, which would include everything. And the way that we get to that 8,000 is tuition is 5,900. And then for those 3 in-person workshops, lodging and food cost about $1,975 of that. And then when you add in books, you get the 5,900 plus the 1,975 plus the 150 takes you to right about 7,975. So right about the $8,000 mark.
And I'll just jump in and say, if you're in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Archdiocese has kind of a special, they help to sponsor the program. So there are special circumstances in Oklahoma, as well as in the Western Regional cohort.
And we're also quite happy to work with people to try to secure Title II funding in order to be able to pay for the cohort too.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of people who participate with that. So feel free to ask more questions for your particular case, and we'd be happy to field those over email. I also think that question segues really well into another question we've got here, which is, are you assigned to your cohort based on location? Like if you're close to St. Louis, is that where you would go? Or would you be in the Oklahoma cohort if you're kind of closer down into Kansas? How does the different cohort separation work?
Yeah, great question. We encourage people to apply to the cohort that is closest to them. It becomes a lot easier to schedule, though, when that once a week synchronous Zoom call takes place. If everybody's in the same time zone, and of course, travel is easier. But if there's a reason that prevents you from being able to join a particular cohort, if there's a date conflict or something with one of the in-person workshops, again, talk to us about that, and we'll make sure that doesn't become an obstacle for you to participate. But we would, based upon where you are, that's where we would encourage you to start your application process.
And if I could just jump in, I saw something come through the chat, someone asking about the time commitment per week, mentioning that their new teachers are already overworked and, where could they come up with the time for that? So we have definitely kept that in mind as we've designed the program. We certainly have some intensive time. So our in-person weeks are very intensive. Labor intensive and time intensive throughout the year, the academic year. However, we've kept the working teacher in mind, and so really we've said 3 hours a week is about what you would need to have available for the CEFC. That includes our 1 hour Zoom session, and then some time for reading, reflection, turning in lesson plans, some of the homework. So 3 hours is about the max of what it would take in a week. DeAnn, you can jump in here too if you'd like. We also you don't have heavy summer work. We give you, the spring break is off, Christmas is off. So it's very much keeping the teacher schedule in mind.
And we've pretty consistently gotten feedback from teachers because we ask them every year how manageable is the workload, and they've consistently told us that it is manageable. So that makes us happy. It means that it's designed well for the working teacher. And we've all been in the same boat too. So we try to design things that we know are reasonable for people who are working so hard every week, so many hours.
And I was just hearing from a couple of teachers earlier today that they appreciate the steady drip that Ellie referenced, that it's immediately applicable into their classroom. So it actually contributes to their class. It's not competing with their class preparations, it's actually informing them. And they're actually working more efficiently in that way. So it's a win-win.
I'm so glad you brought that up because the homework assignments that Ali mentioned, we do ask that you apply whatever it is that we've taught during that session to your classroom. So you're actually able to do some of that lesson planning as your homework assignment.
That segues well into another question we've got here as well, because we talked about the intensive week programs. We have a question here asking about are the in-person sessions a whole week, like Sunday to Sunday, or is it a work week, Monday to Friday? How do those look? How many days are they? How do we structure them?
So that's going to differ a little bit depending on whether they're in the summer or whether they're in January. But the two in-person workshops in the summer tend to go from a Monday through a Friday. So they steer clear of, we try to steer clear of the weekends. In January, or in February, when we're trying to get that second in-person workshop, we usually utilize a 3-day weekend. Oftentimes that's the Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend in the middle of January. So the teachers would come for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but we use that Sunday as an opportunity for spiritual retreat. So the kind of credential sessions are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that Monday.
Thank you, Ryan. We also have a question here about observations. You had talked about observations on one of your slides. What do those look like? What does that process look like? Recording it in the classroom? What goes on with that?
I'll start on this one. So we do try to coach teachers through on how to record in their classroom, and we give them some tips, some written out tips for how they can do that. But we do ask for a full lesson cycle, and what they do is they just capture it. I know this is one aspect of the program that causes nervousness for a lot of our teachers. And I understand, I completely understand why. But they have ended up saying that most of them have said that it's one of their favorite parts of the program just because of the very personalized feedback that they get. And we see our team of observers, we see our role as being coaches. And so we want all of the teachers in our program to be at their absolute best. So we're going to point out for those teachers what they're doing well that they might not even be aware of. And then if there are any tips that we can give them, if we say, Johnny, he's really having a hard time paying attention. Why don't you try this? So we try to offer very active solutions that teachers can implement in their classrooms in order to deal with some of those problems. So even though it's kind of daunting, it ends up being one of the teachers tell us one of the most useful parts of the program.
Thank you, DeAnn. We've got another question here asking about how successful in general are participants in the program? Like about how many people complete the program? Do we have a lot of people dropping? How does that usually look?
I'll start by saying that it's a rigorous program, but we provide a lot of support because our goal is to bring everyone in the program up to a minimally proficient level. Like we want our teachers to succeed in the program, and we do everything we can to coach them up to that.
Mhm.
Does anyone want to add anything else?
I'm not sure if we've got like percentage numbers or anything like that on hand, but anecdotally, over the course of 18 months, if you take 35 people, a, a couple of those are going to move, a couple of those are going to have babies or experience other life changes. They're become a missionary and move to Africa or something like that. So we have, two, maybe three who end up uh, opting to not complete the program because they're starting a family or they're no longer teaching or they're moving or something like that. The number who drop out of the program because they can't handle it is a very small number. And yeah, we've kind of spoken to that, and DeAnn's right. We will do our best to help. If you continue to teach and you continue to want to get that credential, we're going to do everything we can to help you. So success is pretty likely.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, and I can say as well, like most people we see go through the program do complete the program, and it's usually due to personal life things. So don't worry about applying. Definitely apply if you think you want to participate. We have a question here asking if there's a list of dioceses that accept our certification.
Uh, that's a tricky question because some dioceses accept it without explicitly advertising it. So really the best, and so we would hate to generate a list for you and have you use that list to determine whether your school or your diocese would accept it. So the best thing to do is to reach out ahead of time and explain who you are and what this program is, and get an answer on the front end. Um, yeah, there might be reasons why the diocese is willing to say, sure, go for it, but we're not gonna put our name on a list. And so I would hate for people to miss out because they assumed that their diocese was not in the game.
Mhm. We have another question here of does this, so the CEFC, help guard against teacher burnout?
Ooh, pick me.
Oh, go ahead, Lizzie.
I I yes, I quite literally this morning was reading a teacher feedback of a current teacher right now in my cohort who said that um, last year he was considering that he should stop teaching because he was burned out and didn't think that how did he put it? That he was called to teach as a teacher. Like it just wasn't, he was just feeling discouraged. And this program specifically, he mentioned this program has restored and confirmed his vocation as a teacher and that he is on fire to continue. So thanks for asking that question. I hope it brings you joy. It brought me so much joy to read that in the feedback.
Thank you. Yeah, overall, we see a lot of teachers saying that it's a life-giving program. So, yeah, don't, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Um, Finally, we don't have a whole lot of time left. Um, does anyone want to comment on our upcoming opportunities, any upcoming opportunities and other webinars or offerings we've got going on with ICLE?
Well, if anybody is not yet on our mailing list, we do send out monthly newsletters. They contain alerts as to different programs that we're running, like this webinar, our national conference, just other opportunities to be involved. We just up until last week had open registrations for a symposium for priests. And so if you have somebody that you would like to recommend to one of our programs, or to go to your priest and say, I'd love to help you, figure out how you can go to something like this, because it's life-giving for them as well. Make sure that you sign up for on our website so that we can get in touch with you about those things. We do several webinars a year. I think our next one is coming up in March. It will be highlighting some of what we offer for leaders, principals, headmasters, administrators, things like that. So stay tuned for information about that and other webinars coming up throughout the year.
Thank you, Ryan. And I'm going to put it in the chat right now. But if anyone has any follow-up questions, if you're, log off this webinar and you think of a question tonight or something, feel free to drop an email to us. I'll include my email in there, and then I can ask the team here and filter it according to who will have the best answer. So let me just put that in there.
And just if anybody who is on this call has not been to our national conference, that registration, I think, is open and filling. It usually fills pretty quickly. It was filled, we had 500 people last year, and it was filled by January. So if you're thinking about that, that's a wonderful opportunity to get exposure and an introduction to what ICLE is about. And this year it's taking place in July in Columbus, Ohio. And yeah, details are on our website. But it's a wonderful thing if you're at all interested. Make sure that you sign up in time for that.
Thank you, Ryan. And I just included a link as well to join our mailing list. So feel free to click on that if you aren't on that mailing list that Ryan had just mentioned before. Does anyone have any final comments? If we have any final questions, we got just like another minute left. Otherwise, thank you all.
Yeah, I think I just want to say thanks to any teacher who has answered the call to be in this work. It is as as we've noted, teaching can be exhausting. It can be grueling. It's kind of a combination of so many different skill sets and vocations involved rolled into one. So much is asked and expected of our teachers. So the fact that you are on the front lines and that you are serving and loving our students and families well for the sake of our church, we just want to say thank you. And we admire you, and we're here to help. So this program is here to serve you. And if you think it could be helpful, that brings us great joy.